So, don't put your hands on someone. Got more black hypocrisy coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logic Reason. As always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So, you don't put your hands on someone has been the pro-black rallying cry when it came down to the Karmelo Anthony case. They keep saying this, keep your hands to yourself. It doesn't matter how many times people tell them or people say that it was a disproportionate use of force. Again, you can't stab someone because they shoved you. They just keep saying, they'll just keep repeating, well, keep your hands to yourself. It was self-defense. But black people aren't brainwashed in America. Truly sad, absolutely sad. Anyway, but where is the hypocrisy in this? Where is the black hypocrisy? Well, these same black folks who keep saying, keep your hands to yourself, that you don't put your hands on someone, these are the same black people who keep ignoring the Travon Martin incident. Remember, Travon Martin put hands on George Zimmerman. Again, George Zimmerman was following saw Travon Martin, didn't recognize him. He reported to the police that someone was suspicious. He followed Travon Martin, but he kept his distance from Travon. Well, Travon saw Zimmerman and went behind the corner and then doubled back and then came up on Zimmerman, and he closed the distance on Zimmerman and started the physical confrontation. Now, of course, we know, we should know that Travon ended up on top of George Zimmerman, pounding his head into the concrete MMA style. And this is why Zimmerman was found innocent and shooting him to death, because it fell under the criteria. There's 3 criteria in which you can get away with the use of deadly force. Number 1, you match equal force. Number 2, your life is in imminent danger. And number 3, there's a threat of severe bodily harm to you. Well, number 2 and number 3 fit in the George Zimmerman case, and this is why Zimmerman got off. Why Zimmerman was innocent. Whereas in that Karmelo Anthony was guilty because you stabbed somebody for just being shoved. Of course, it's sad that this incident happened almost 14 years ago, the Travon Martin incident, and black people still don't know the facts of that case. They completely ignore that Travon Martin put hands on George Zimmerman. But then they want to say this, to keep your hands to yourself about the Karmelo Anthony case. And then they've been crying about the height difference. Well, the height and weight difference. They say that Karmelo Anthony was 5'8", and I'm hearing the reports that he was anywhere between 5'8" and 5'10". And basically Austin Metcalf was 6'1". Well, there was also a height difference between Travon Martin and George Zimmerman. Travon Martin is reported to be, I heard 6 feet, I've heard 5'8", I've heard 6'1", but I would say reportedly he was about 6 feet. Well, Zimmerman was about 5'5" to 5'6". So you also had another height difference that they completely ignored. So again, the hypocrisy among these people is beyond belief. How they just flip-flop their arguments at the drop of a hat. On one case, they'll promote a narrative, and then for another case, they'll completely ignore their narrative because it will go against the point that they're trying to make a narrative. How they can drop arguments to support their narrative is just beyond belief, but then that's leftist. And I always say that when it comes down to black people, just more proof when I say that when it comes down to these FBAs, when race starts, brains stop, they turn into mindless zombies when they hear race, and these race hustlers keep playing upon this. Regardless, this is completely hypocrisy among these black people, because you cannot sit here and say, keep your hands to yourself. You can't sit here and cry about the weight and height difference when it comes down to Karmelo Anthony, but didn't give that same benefit to George Zimmerman, that which they're still crying about this incident to today, because they don't know the facts of anything. Anyway, look, this is just more black hypocrisy. And this black hypocrisy is always happening. I just don't do as many videos on it as I could. But when I do see it, I do try to call it out. This is black hypocrisy as far as the eyes can see. Anyway, y'all, as always, until next time.